Hey y'all, I'm back with part 2, and this part is about Jesus being beaten by the Romans. And I want to tell you a little bit about how it was to be beaten by a Roman soldier. The Jews were only permitted to give 40 lashes, which was reduced to 39, because usually the 40th was a fatal blow. And Romans, on the other hand, they did not have a limit unless they were specifically stopped because the prisoner looked like they were about to die. And the reason for this is because they would use leather straps that were about 18 to 24 inches long, and in them they would have, sharp, jagged objects in them, like wire, metal, glass, bones, things like that. And so whenever they would whip a prisoner, it would literally grab onto their flesh and just rip it off. Makes you shudder to think about something like that. And, most of us have seen The Passion of the Christ. And we think, well, maybe they kind of overdid the beating just for dramatic effect. But it was actually underdone because in some cases where a prisoner would be beaten so badly, their bowels would literally spill out through their wounds on the floor. And you think, well, they must have died right there. Nope, not yet. How? I don't know. Because, their bodies were losing so much blood, it could send them into cardiac arrest, shock, all these things. And so, the movie was really, even though it looks terrible, and as terrible as that looks, it was worse. Because we're also told in Isaiah chapter 52, verse 14, that as many were astonished at him, his visage was so marred more than any man, and his form more than sons of men. In other words, he was like beyond recognition. It was so terrible. And, we may ask ourselves, well, why did he have to be beaten? Was it just because, most people were beaten before they were crucified? Possibly, but being a Bible believer, of course, I go back to what it says in, Isaiah 53, verse 5. By his stripes we are healed. He was wounded for our transgression. He was bruised for our iniquity. The chastisement of our peace was upon him, and with his stripes we are healed. And whenever it says healed, it actually is meaning a physical healed, like our physical bodies. You hear stories about how Jesus or God, will heal someone with a physical disability or cancer or, anything physical, any type of sickness or, things like that. And it's why he had to do that, because even though he died on the cross to take our sin away, healing us wasn't really, that's not a sin. We can't help if we get, cancer. We can't help if we, get breast cancer or leukemia or, all those bad things. And so he had to be beaten like that for that specifically. Because, I even have my own personal story with healing, and it's a minor one, but I'd like to share it anyway, just because I think that I am the reason that he had to be chastised. Because here recently, actually, I had found a lump, and my grandmother had actually had breast cancer whenever I was younger, and so I was pretty concerned about it. And I was praying and really saying, Lord, please don't let this be what I think it is or what it could be. I have 2 small children, and I would just hate not to get to see them grow up. And I went to the doctor, and he said it felt like a cyst. And I'm like, okay, well, that made me feel a little better, And I was praying more about it, and I remember telling God, okay, I know you can do anything if you want to. If it's your will, I know that you can do it. And one night in the middle of a prayer, I remember I was saying those words specifically, and I seen like a hand over my chest. And it was it was honestly so real. I stopped praying and opened my eyes. And I'm like, wait a minute, like what? Like what just happened? So if you have your own personal experience with God healing you, you know, maybe it wasn't like a visual healing type thing like mine was. And it was a healing because the doctor had actually sent me over to the hospital to have a, what do you call it? Ultrasound done. Forgive me. An ultrasound done. And whenever I went, after I had prayed now, I went to the doctor. They're doing the ultrasound, and there was nothing in there. Absolutely nothing in there. And I literally praised God in the hospital. It was just so amazing to me that he actually did that for me.